In-person learning will soon resume in Oklahoma's largest school districts, even as those COVID numbers we just showed you continue to trend in an alarming direction. Should the idea of bringing students back into the classroom be reevaluated? Rory Taylor has our report.
On Monday this week, Tulsa held a school board meeting to discuss returning to in-person instruction, virtually for parents to attend.
We're paying attention to everything that's coming out from the CDC, from national research sites, that we're learning from the districts around the country and around the world even who've gone before us, so that we get this right.
Exactly a week after that meeting, pre-K and kindergarten students will return to in-person instruction in Tulsa, followed the subsequent weeks by the rest of grades 1 through 6.
What we would really love is for families to spend time talking with their children about what it's going to be like to practice mask wearing, to make sure that they understand what the expectations will be around touching our friends and washing our hands and why all of those things are different right now.
In Oklahoma City, grades 1 through 12 will also be returning to the classroom.
From day one, our goal has been to get all of our kids back to school. That's been our goal. We think that's the best place for them. But we added to that, we wanted to do it when it was safe and responsible to do so.
Of course, that safety of the students, teachers, and parents or guardians is the big question. For a little more insight on how children react to COVID-19, I talked to Oklahoma City County Health Department's epidemiologist, Eddie Withers.
Children do tend to be asymptomatic. What you can imagine that in the scheme of investigations, contact tracing gets a little difficult because if they're not showing symptoms and they don't go and test for, whatever various reasons they may test for, we just don't know that they're positive,
That tendency of COVID to pass asymptomatically among children is one of the reasons the metro area schools waited to return in person. But Tulsa Superintendent Dr. Deborah Gist says that wait was informative to the district board.
What we've learned from around the world, from around the country, and including in the area around the fact that the virus does not appear to be spreading in schools.
A significant claim that state epidemiologist Jared Taylor confirms.
What we do know is that we have seen cases in many districts that are having in-person education. We do know that we have documented what appears to be transmission that has occurred in a school setting, but we also know that we've documented more cases that have actually entered into the school as a result of community transmission.
The current theory is that the school environment's regularity of enforced precautions are what make that difference. Good news for health and education officials alike, as the decision to return in person boils down to balancing risk and benefit.
We are potentially exposing people to COVID-19 and the illness that might follow. That's a valid concern. The other valid concern is as we keep kids at home, we are potentially exposing them to everything from abuse to food insecurity and hunger to neglect. There's academic loss. There's a lot of stuff here on both sides.
One way Tulsa and Oklahoma City are both helping reduce that risk as much as possible is by requiring masks in their schools. Back in July, the state school board voted 4-3 to not mandate masks in the classroom on a state level, but rather leave the decision to districts. The Oklahoma Institute for Child Advocacy is now looking to change that.
Unfortunately, we received the information about 2 weeks ago that about 20% of local school districts do not have a masking policy. So those thousands of children are being put at risk because their local leaders refuse to do what's the right thing to do.
Masks work, and our analysis has shown that at the municipal level within cities and communities, mask mandates have driven down case densities and fatality rates as well.
The OICA has started a Change.org petition to encourage the State Board of Education to put forward a masking policy, as well as billboards showing how the vote fell in July. The Board of Education had no comment on the matter.
Oklahoma's 9th in the nation for grandparents raising grandkids. We have teachers that are literally putting their lives on the line going into the classroom when the schools come back and they have instruction. and they're trying to do the best they can with social distancing, but we've had crowded classrooms for years.
I think if virtual is possible, that's definitely the best bet at this point. But as we obviously want to transition back to some sense of normalcy, it's going to be important for everybody to be patient, and it's going to be important to know that things probably won't look the same that they looked, perhaps 7 months ago.
However, both metros do have plans to go back to distance learning if transmission rises.
We believe the best place for kids, the safest place for kids, is in the schoolhouse. And if and when we get to that place where we no longer believe it's our safest, best answer, then we will go back to a virtual setting.
Rory Taylor, The Oklahoma News Report.